everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so happy to finally have Dr. Christian Gonzalez here with us. Hi, Dr. G. Good to have you.
Hello, Beth. Thank you for having me from New York to LA.
Yeah. And I was just saying, I love the New York accent. I really do miss that. So it's great to hear it. So
I mean, I was reminded that I have it. I just forgot that I had it until
forget,
yeah. I guess
forget.
it's stronger than I thought.
It's funny because I'm actually from California and I still have that accent in me.
Ooh, okay. It'll stick to you.
I
You know what I mean? There's a lot of movies, New York accents. You hear a lot of people, guys at the bagel store, guys at the pizza place, and then you go, okay, well, something's gonna catch on at some point.
Is anyone making good bagels in California yet? Because,
Zero, zero.
yeah,
Actually,
they
went to Brooklyn. I did a post that where are all the good bagels in California? Because I went to this place in Brooklyn. Finally had a good bagel.
I wonder I wonder if it's the place near where I used to live
It's
in Brooklyn.
called Black Seed. It was in
Oh,
Brooklyn, Black Seed. Shout out Black Seed. Yeah.
because yeah, you really just can't get a good bagel outside the city. I
Uh,
mean, even up here, 2 hours away, there's one place, but it's probably for the best because I don't really
they're,
do
they're
gluten
not the
much.
healthiest. Yeah,
I
yeah, they're not the
know.
healthiest. Once a year for me,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
exactly
was
it.
a
It's
good
like
time. Yeah.
once a year. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you if you haven't heard of Dr. G. So, Christian, Dr. G completed his doctorate of naturopathic medicine at the University of Bridgeport College of Naturopathic Medicine in 2014. During his time there, he took interest in many fields of medicine, but it wasn't until his mother passed away of cancer that he decided to shift his focus to oncology. Upon graduation, he completed his residency at the Cancer Treatment Center of America, where he found a passion in helping people optimize their health and preventing chronic disease. He soon realized that cancer was not simply nutritional or exercise based, and it was much more than that. Everything is connected, and those of us listeners, if we don't know this by now, I don't know where you've been, but from the foods that we eat to the way that we think and interact with the world and the people in our lives. These seemingly small factors all play a large part when it comes to our health and longevity. Because of this, Dr. G has shifted from working with patients to focusing his energy on mass education. He's also the host of a weekly podcast called Heal Thyself, which focuses on giving people the tools they need to truly heal from the inside out and highlights some of the top medical professionals in the industry. Dr. G lives in LA, where he continues his mission of empowering people with the knowledge and the courage to take their health into their own hands. So, Christian, I'd love to hear your quick story. It's interesting. My father also died of cancer, and it had a
Mm.
profound effect on my life because it was, premature. And I'm sure this probably is a similar
Yeah.
situation. But I'm curious, what got you into the field of naturopathic medicine in the first place? Like, were you just a healthy kid and kind of
Mhm.
on this path, or what's that story?
Oh man, definitely not healthy kid. And we think about like the way that we ate when we were younger. I think most people listening to this can remember like Dunkaroos and Gushers and Fruit by the Foot and all them cereals. And that, I mean, like, we didn't know, right? Like, my parents didn't know that it was just like what was at the supermarket. And it's something that, like, I was marketed to as a kid with all the, like, Saturday morning cartoons. And I'm like, oh, I want one of those. And, there's like, before I even go into that, there's like something called a pester factor where it's actually uh, implemented in the marketing plan with the belief that children will pester their parents up to a certain amount to get this, and it's actually added into the whole marketing thing. So, man, pester power it's called, and I was getting all those stuff. So I didn't really grow up healthy eating. For all intents and purposes, I was a pretty healthy kid. But what really brought me into naturopathic medicine was the journey that I went through pre out of college in dental school. And I was going to be a orthodontist. That's what I wanted to be, an orthodontist. Because I had my own experience with teeth and everything, and my teeth were all messed up and confidence issues when I was younger. But going into dental school was really potent for me because at the same time of me leaving my family for the first time, leaving the East Coast really for the first time to live in the Midwest, I was away from my mom and she was diagnosed with cancer. So that's when the whole cancer journey started when I was in school. And within that first year and a half, there was a lot of ups and downs. And ironically, in my whole journey and helping support her as I was sort of off put by the way that we treat cancer in this world. You know, for those of you who've gone on a cancer journey and you're a cancer survivor, congratulations, that's beautiful. And for those of you who've been listening to this podcast and know someone who has cancer, you know, it's also, you know, that's a whole family experience. It's the whole community experience. It's not just one person. Everyone is deeply affected, especially the immediate family. So I would go to her appointments and I would be really off put by the foods that they would recommend because she was losing weight. So they really wanted her to have high caloric foods. But when I heard like pizza and cakes and cookies and like these sugar smoothie recipes, I was in shock because I was like, I don't know nutrition like that, but I do know like bro nutrition, working out, you know, like eating healthy. I know some of that, you know, and this is not the same. So I took it in my own hands and really went through that journey of like helping her make calorically dense smoothies, making sure she's eating calorically dense, healthy foods. And in that journey, I found out about naturopathic medicine. You know, I'll tell a story sometimes. I'm reading this book. It's called the Martha's Vineyard Diet. I go, what is this? I'm looking at. I'm in the library, and actually, I'm not in the library. She gave me the book to read, and then I saw this. It said ND in the front, and I go, well, what editor can make such a big mistake? They should have put MD. I can't believe they put ND. I can't believe. I go, let me see what editing company, and I'm opening it. I'm looking through and then I see ND naturopathic. I said, what's a naturopathic medicine? And I go, you know, I go, whoa. And at the time, there was no we didn't have internet on our phones. I mean, I'm not. I'm a little older than people may think, but like you know, I didn't have. I had a flip phone, so I rushed from. You know, I got my bags. I rushed, went all the way back to my small little studio apartment. I opened up my computer and I was like, "What is naturopathic medicine?" And I remember this was like 11 at night. I had school the next day, and I was on the computer for hours, like watching YouTube videos, learning about it, and I had this huge rush of intuition, and that's what told me that I need to transfer. I need to move into something that is more in alignment, and I did. Unfortunately, in the first year, she passed away from cancer. But that set me on the course of going into oncology, working with women with breast cancer, learning about what's happening, what more are we not looking at with cancer. And in the what mores, it led me through like environmental medicine and science and the podcast and people like, whoa, what's the best couch and what's the best bed and what's the best air filter? How do I buy this? You know, and teaching and teaching and teaching, which ultimately sprouted this thing of like resiliency. And it's like, we're going to be exposed to all this stuff, but we need a strong, resilient nervous system, and that's coming from really the somatic work. If you're holding on repressed emotions, deep repressed emotions, then it doesn't matter. It will matter, but it doesn't matter to the extent of how you're eating, how you're working out. It might be a radical thing to say, right? All the things you're doing that are on the surface physical, if you have a block emotionally and it is eating away at your system, it's depleting your energy, it's affecting every one of your systems, including your hormones, including your immune system, then it stands to believe that is the most important route to look at before anything. And that's when everything transitioned.
Wow. And that's a lot to say, but I believe it. As someone who's been doing somatic work for let's see, 10 years.
Hmm.
Like I started doing somatic therapy when it was kind of in the like unheard of. It was not
Yeah.
a common thing, and I was very lucky to find a practitioner who had studied somatic experiencing and then ended up, getting into core energetics work. But it has been one of the most powerful tools for me in my life. And it's one of the most
Hmm.
recommended modalities that I tell people to study, especially people working in this kind of therapeutic coaching, healing, and then medicine space, and I would love to talk about this as well because I've worked with a lot of plant medicines. There's a lot of people who actually do turn to plant medicine to help with cancer. I've been down to the jungle on a dieta with people that are like,
Hmm.
let me go full in healing. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the potential of, let's say psychedelics to work to help heal things like cancer or these big chronic diseases or, kind of incurable issues that people have.
I'll speak from the knowledge that I have, and I'm not a psychedelic practitioner. I've taken psychedelics; they're profound. I know that, and I think we all know that who've done it. in an environment that was safe and controlled, and not like a party with like EDM music and alcohol. You know, it's a little different. What I do know is this, and I've worked a lot in cancer. What I do know is that we have our research and data that shows healthy weight, not eating processed foods, no alcohol, no cigarettes. You know, those are the things that we really, really know are contributing to cancer. You know, different certain hormones, synthetic hormones can contribute. We have data that says if you take this, you're predisposing yourself to cancer at some point. This is the thing that can give you cancer. But there's other factors that are not in the research that we need to look at more. I mentioned environmental medicine, but you know, we hear stress is the killer, right? Stress is the thing that is making us sick. Stress is the root of everything. But when I hear that, I always go, okay, if someone is stressed, we just kind of leave it at that. I'm stressed. And then maybe you'll go on a walk or go on a workout or maybe just turn off for a little bit or maybe watch a movie. I don't know, whatever works for people de-stressing. But we don't go past the de-stressing. And the truth for me is like, if you're stressed, that's the signal that your body is holding something in. You're not allowing yourself to express what the stress is protecting. So when I hear someone say, I'm stressed, I'm really hearing I'm not allowing myself to fully express an emotion that is unsafe and unlovable. That's what I hear. Right. So then like you'll hear and then they'll go, well, what are you stressed about? Well, you know, at work, my boss just got on me. He just yelled at me and it was in front of people, so embarrassing. And then I got really stressed after. But the truth is, maybe you really wanted to explode back and protect your boundaries and be like, you don't talk to me like that, right? There's something in there that is not expressed that is causing you the somatic experience of I'm contracted, I'm in sympathetic, I'm in survival mode, now I'm stressed. Well, when it comes to cancer, that mode, that role, that repression, contraction, nervous system dysregulation persistently is a driving force for cancer. Now, at what percent? I think it depends on the person. Generally speaking, I would say it's a big percent, a really big percent, you know, and maybe over 50. And so, going on a psychedelic journey, it's going to show you the very things that you're not looking at, right? The very things is like, you might have rage inside of you. And I know people, you and have been in circles where people were just expressing all this rage, right? You might have a deep well of sadness inside of you that is totally unprocessed and your heart's been blocked and you can't connect intimately with your partner or your daughter or your loved ones, whatever it is. The psychedelics will show you that. Now, as you know, it's always how are you going to embody it after? People always fall into the same thing like, oh, I'm going on my eighth ayahuasca journey this year. I'm like, well, what the hell? The first one didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a moment where you're coming back to like, how do I embody the part of me that was expressed during ayahuasca or the knowing that was expressed during the psychedelic journey? So it's sort of in the same alignment. It's the mechanism of nervous system dysregulation, stress, the signals that are telling your body that it isn't safe, and the parts of you that are held back, those blockages that are not allowing your nervous system to function. Like if you think of a river flowing, it's just all these giant rocks in the way. You move the rocks and the river is just flowing. It's generating power and it's vital and it's alive and it's healing. That's what we want. So yeah, absolutely. Something like psychedelics is like it's a all of the bricks on top. It is showing you right then and there. It's hyper speed. Look at there's a rock there, there's a rock there, there's a rock there, right? So we have to do the work to continuously keep it open.
And I will repeat what you just said because it's so important is do the work. So as someone who's been in this space for a long time and sitting in communities and circles and people going on their 95th ayahuasca journey, like,
Right.
oh, the first 94 didn't work.
Yes, that's right.
And eighth this year. I mean, there's a lot of that. But one of the reasons I started speaking about this very publicly was that I actually do business coaching. I help people grow their businesses, but I
Mm.
kept seeing these patterns develop where people would show up ceremony after ceremony after ceremony, nothing in their life would change, and they'd be the same. Especially, by the way, New Yorker. I was in New York City living the New York lifestyle with everybody else, and you would see people like the same anger or the same sadness, the same depression, the same anxiety for years.
Yeah.
And, like you said, it's important that the psychedelics help you see it. But then there's a lot of people where, especially the last 4 years, with the media telling us that psychedelics are going to fix everything. Oh, just take a psychedelic, you'll feel better. It's like,
Hmm.
well, wait a second. You're hitting this key part that I talk about constantly, is that integration, and the somatics is the number one integration tool I believe that everybody working in the psychedelic space needs to know about. And it's actually surprising how many people haven't even studied it, haven't done any somatic therapy themselves, haven't even done their own journey with it. And usually, and I repeat this over and over, when people ask me like what training should I do, I always say like study the body. It's like,
Yeah.
because it's everything. And like you said, it's the whole point of the psychedelics is to show us like what is it we're not feeling, what's repressed, what's the pattern underlying that's coming up over and over and over. And with a proper practitioner and proper help, like you can
Mhm.
actually start to truly heal that. And this is where I started noticing like, well, wait, people are coming back for their 90th, 120th, 10,
Right.
15 years. And it's like, well, why are they not changing dramatically?
Mm.
So it's really interesting. You also said something else. So one of my former partners was a somatic therapist, and he used to say like, well, the key to healing this planet would be everybody expressing their rage. And it's like, express the feelings that we're not feeling, or feel the feelings we're not feeling. But what happens when, like, let's say here in America right now, it feels like there's a lot of rage going around. Pre-election, this year is very divisive. Is the goal for everybody now to just start like, lashing out at their bosses if they're feeling upset, or like,
Mm.
when you say this, what do we imagine is a healthy way to go about doing this?
Mm. That's a great question. I would say this: rage or anger isn't the primary emotion. There's always something under it. So
Mm,
I would actually disagree with your ex that there is something deeper than that. It's not just rage; it's what's
yeah.
under it. Um, I will say that in the context of anger, anger is a very potent expression that is often repressed. Um, we're a lot more primal than we think, and we have a lot more rage than we think. A lot of women have a lot of rage. A lot of men have a lot of sadness, I would say, but a lot of women have a lot of rage. It's a really potent, but also a very sacred moment when the woman allows that river to flow. That especially when it's the rage river, she allows it to flow, and it's just like this power that comes over this woman. So people in general who aren't expressing their anger oftentimes are compensating as people pleasers. We see that a lot. So, how many people listening or viewing like know that person when we look at them, they're so nice, but you still feel uncomfortable around them, right? They're like, wow, she like does everything, he does everything, they're so sweet, but like their eyes are really like there's pain in the eyes.
Mhm.
That's oftentimes rage that is repressed,
Mhm.
and that's a potent emotion, and that person never felt safe to express that in the home. They most likely grew up with a parent that was very expressive with their own rage, and it was really scary in the house. Or when they express it themselves, they would say, hey, no, we don't do that in the house. And a child goes, okay, like if I'm going to listen to mom and dad, because if I don't, really the biological imperative is that we need to survive. So the belief is like, if I don't, I'm going to be excommunicated, or I'm not going to eat food, or I'm not going to be loved. And that's the most important. That will trump, always, that will trump authenticity,
Mhm.
survival. It's okay. And a lot of the world has a lot of rage. Now, when I say expressing that rage, I mean it in a healthy way. I don't mean if I go to the coffee shop here and they put monk fruit instead of stevia, that I freak out and I flip something and I throw something at everyone. I go, "Ah, I hate this place," and then I leave. And then people clap and they're like, "Wow, you expressed your rage." That's a very unhealthy way to express rage, right? And ironically, it's the way that we think rage is expressed. Therefore, we won't express it because we won't be accepted by our peers or the community, or if we do it in front of our family, our family. So we hold in that outburst. we believe that rage can't be expressed to ourselves because we never seen our abusive mom or dad express their rage to themselves. They express it at each other. They yell at each other. They yell at you, right? The house is unsafe. But the truth is, if you connect to your own body and have those sacred connections, dropping in every single day, feeling into tension, connecting to where you're holding that tension. If you keep doing that consistently, that's the key. You can't just go in your body and go, oh well, my body didn't want to show me anything. I don't know, somatics doesn't work. No, no, no. It's about dropping into your body until your body even trusts you, because you've abandoned it for so long, trusts you to even show you what's there. You're knocking on a door of a house that maybe it's going to open today. You wait till the house, the person behind the door trusts you, and that's your body. When it trusts you, it will begin to show you. You'll begin to have whatever visions when your eyes are closed. You'll just have those feelings, those sensations. But the most potent moment is expressing that anger in the comfort of your own home when no one's around. When you're breathing and or you're shaking and then your fists are tightening, and we're not repeating a moment. We're not getting stuck on a moment like, why did he do that to me? Why did he break up with me? Or why did she break up with me? No, no, no. Forget about the stories, because I promise you, your body doesn't care about the stories. The body does not care about the stories. It's just there for you to express. Are you allowing it to express? So just be with the expression versus the story. And as that's happening, you'll notice, holy shit, my voice is a lot stronger than I thought. Holy shit, the house is about to shake because, oh my God, what about the neighbors? Ah, fuck it. Who cares about the neighbors? Ah, right? And you feel powerful because why? You're back to your strength. You're big. You're not playing small anymore. Your voice is louder. That means then, when you've integrated this, when you go out into the waking life world and someone crosses your boundary, you're not going to go, oh, my rage is here again. No, you've integrated that huge reservoir and it came out such that when your boundary is crossed, you have strong boundaries. Hey, no, 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 dude, that's not how you talk to me. That's a boundary and you're not going to pass it. I'm sorry. That's it. That's it. And you have your boundaries strong, and people go, "Oh my God, what happened to Beth? She's so different right now." Oh, whoa! Like I don't like, and then all of a sudden they were like, I used to be able to like kind of like walk over her a little bit. No, no, no. Now I feel like I'm like I have to respect her. It's just an internal like shift. We feel someone's energy. That's probably the most potent shift in energy you can feel when someone witnesses their anger, comes back to their dignity as a human being, their integrity as a human, and then has their boundaries strong. You don't talk to me like that. You don't treat me like that. Whatever it is, you get stronger and stronger in your boundaries. Then when you're angry, because you're going to be angry at some point, something's going to fill you up. You go home and you go, okay, I'm gonna lay down. I'm gonna do the same thing that I was doing, or I'm gonna move my body. I'm gonna move that energy, but it's never going to be as deep as it was because you've integrated it.
Mm. Mm. Such an important lesson. And this is something, especially in the psychedelic spaces and the psychedelic fields, for people that are working with other human beings in this space to even discuss the body, the energetics, the boundaries. I literally, by the way, I recorded an email yesterday. I recorded an email that's turning into an email about boundaries and how much, someone who coaches people that are healers, coaches, therapists. It's interesting, and we know this is I don't know what your views are on this, but like roots back to the trauma patterning of people who are, like the overgivers, people pleasers, like constantly
Mhm.
giving, and like the people that are called to be of service, people called to be of help, very often also have like very low sense of boundaries. And I've seen this with my clients where they're like, oh my God, that was so hard. I just got exhausted running this group program. And I'm like, exhausted? Like, it
Mhm.
shouldn't be exhausting. It should actually be like enlivening and invigorating. But, after hearing her story, it came down to boundaries. It came down to like not holding the container, not holding appropriate boundaries with
Right.
clients. And especially when you're doing like really deep transformational work in an energetic space like psychedelics in this kind of world, it's even more important to understand this. And it's very interesting because I'm finding more and more people aren't really being trained in this. Not to put any of these programs down. There's a lot of psychedelic coach training, psychedelic facilitator trainings out there. and they're all good, but a lot of them are very mind based. Like,
Yeah.
here's how the, the neurotransmitters, but then it's like, well, what's actually happening in the psychedelic field or any kind of transformational field? It's like you just said, that these emotions need to be felt, and very often, if you're there holding these spaces, like, they come up, you know.
That's right.
So I want to hear a little bit about this training that you have coming up, and like what the premise was for even starting it, what kind of people join it.
Mm.
And also, I'm also curious, like, how you did get from, kind of traditional naturopathic medicine, oncology, health and wellness, and then, like, was your journey, like, what did you go through to discover that somatic, like the body is
Yeah.
actually the key?
The training itself, uh, I'm just like you. You have a pulse on the psychedelic trainings. My pulse on the somatic trainings was that it wasn't balanced enough with the full understanding of the body. It was when if you come into the somatic training, it's like somatics and anger and yes, nervous system. But to me, it's more, right? Like if someone comes into you as a client and their circadian rhythm is off, they're not eating at the right time, they're not sleeping at the right time, they're disconnected from nature, they're eating really crappy food, their digestive system is a mess, you can do the somatics, and those are very things that could still be expressing anxiety or depression in the person. So I wanted to make it comprehensive where even if someone never went to any science courses, they at least are proficient enough to speak on all those levels with a client, right? So if you have your client, they come in, you're going to have the somatic grounding, and you have this emotional liberation method modality that I've created. All you have that as your foundation, and you're coaching your client to see, okay, well, let's also explore the other things that are going to cause dysregulation in the nervous system. Probably, I would say the repressed emotions are the deepest dysregulators of the nervous system, you know? But there's also those other ones that come in the form of also the physical stuff, also the mental stuff. So we cover all of it, so we bring more proficiency. So then when you have a client, they come in for an emotional healing, you have a questionnaire, you go through the interview, you talk to them, you get a feel for what their life is like, connections, food, mental, and then you move into the somatic work, move them through that. If they're expressing those emotions, and it's like really potent for them, you're also giving them stuff to go home with. That's the thing. There's a lot of somatic programs that teach you just a modality and nothing else. There's a popular somatic program that I've had 3 people come to me for, and they're like, hey, like, I didn't know what to do after. We just do it's not, they did it like a Reiki session, but it can't just be like a Reiki session. You're doing deep work. So what is the integrative plan? And if I tell you I'm eating like shit, what can you tell me? Like, how can you lead me? You don't have to be a nutritionist or dietitian. You can just have an awareness in a coaching container. So that's what I'm teaching. And I wanted to make it inclusive for everyone because I do believe everyone has healing capacity. We all are it's about a person connecting to their inner healer, right? But to do that, it's not just a teaching program, it's the program that also has you doing the work. So you're on an 8-week program internally yourself that I created and we're always checking in accountability. We have an accountability coach. We are in it, the whole crew. So by the time that retreat comes in the middle, everybody's ripe. And that retreat is like, oh my God, thank God it's like a huge open space with no neighbors because it is wild. There's like people, but it's like the anti-aging, their faces are younger, their energy is more expanded, their shoulders are lower, and they're unlocking these gifts that they didn't even know they had as healers. That's the work. And then learning how to integrate. So I'm very proud of it. It's the Emotional Liberation Method program. And for me, like, I've seen many patients for a long time, and I stopped practicing 4 years ago because I wanted to focus on education. And I've thousands of patients I've seen, and I wish I knew more of the somatic work with those patients because I could be a proper integrative practitioner. I could have asked them, okay, physical health, tell me about all you're eating. Let's take the lab, let's do all these things. But then also doing the emotional liberation method, those healings, those emotional release healings, to see. okay, whoa, how much of this person's disease is just the somatic work, right? If I had that tool, I could go, holy moly, everything is just in remission or is gotten better. Now let's just do some stuff with the food and let's do some stuff with the exercise. But wow, you see what I mean? Like this is a massive tool. And I went through that process myself. Like years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago, I was waking up in bed and my body was shaking. And I was like, what is going on? 3 in the morning, like full. I was like, is this a seizure? Am I having seizures? 4 days of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Like it was like a work week. It was like, no, no, no. We're gonna start on Monday. We're gonna end on Friday. And in that moment, I remember I had a slight glimpse of like this whole body shaking. I could have stopped it so it wasn't a seizure. I saw this vision of this polar bear that I remember that I saw in long years ago when I was in school. Peter Levine had a video of showing a polar bear that was anesthetized to get tagged, and then when it came out of the anesthesia, it was shaking. The whole body was shaking, and he's talking about the body's processing. I go, oh my God, is my body processing some stuff deep that hasn't come out? And then I started to learn. I got a vision to how to connect my breathing and sounds to what was coming out. And then that was the birth of the method, because I really began to learn. And then once I dove deep into it, everything made sense. I was like, oh duh, and that makes sense in medicine. Why didn't I connect that myself? And it was just like I had the door to Narnia or something and unlocked, and it was like if I felt like the Matrix, I understood that. I got like, I get it now, and and then it led me to seeing clients and patients and building a huge experience of like, this is what happens when someone has repressed shame. This is repressed sexual energy. Here's how it looks. Here's how it sounds. Here's how the hips express. Here's how their posture is. How their face looks. Like, to the point where now I can read people very easily. So I put that into a program. How can I not? Right? Like, it's time to teach people like the next step in healing. So yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Amazing. I love it. And I do want to emphasize, because, I've been in a lot of these spaces and I've done some somatic training myself. And one in particular I was in back in 2019, I think it was. And a guy, he was this older man, and his eyes, you couldn't even see his eyes. Like they were just really closed and squinty. And non joking, it was like a 3-day immersive. And by the end of the weekend, we're all like, oh, you have blue eyes. Like we literally couldn't see his eyes. And he just,
Opened up.
yeah, physically. And I've done other somatic work and other, deep dives and even work with clients. And it is amazing to see how people's faces, and like you just said, it's like anti-aging.
Yeah.
It's how do you know, like, I mean, I have my theories, and I assume it's just the energetics of what's stored in each, like the cellular memory and our bodies. But is that what's going on when people's actual like eyes open up and their face changes and they seem more relaxed? Is that what it is just like the energy moving?
Yeah, I mean, like from a psychosomatic context, if I think about this guy with his eyes closed, well, like if someone is in fear, their eyes are going to be more open, right? That's the expression of like, I need to survive.
Mhm.
For him, it might have been that his body's so used to holding back those tears. I'm sure he cried a lot. Did he cry a lot?
Eventually, yeah, at the
Yeah,
end.
right at the end.
The
So,
very
so
end.
the very end, right? Like, so these muscles are contracted at holding in like all of
Mm.
that that's in there. That's the way that I would see it. But regardless, like, why do people express with when they go through these processes, they look younger, right? And my take on that is that not only is your nervous system in a more regulated state, so you're more relaxed. I think about like post-orgasmic relaxation, right? But like, what's funny? That should be our state all the time. We should feel safe. We should feel good in our body. We should feel just open and flow and like wanting to connect with people. That's our God-given right. Anything outside of that is dysregulation. So when a face is just calm and young, the nervous system isn't contracting the fascia of the face, right? You're not holding. What do you do if you and I went food shopping and we get to the house and we have like all of these bags, and then I have you grab like 90% of the bags and I grab one, and then I go inside and then I forget you're outside and I lock you out by mistake and you're holding the bags, right? At some point your face is going to contract, right? You're like, ugh, right? You're holding it like your arms are shaking. It's the same thing. Your nervous system is hyper-reacted. It's shooting off because it doesn't feel safe, or it's holding in. So your face is going to express in that crunch, your eyes, your mouth. It's just you're not you don't feel good in your body. You can tell when you look at someone, that person's happy or not. It's not necessarily if they're happy or not. You just know if they feel good in their body. Um, and then when it's released, it's like this, right? And then it's not just that moment, but it's like learning how to keep yourself in, and that takes some work. You can't just like wake up, roll out of bed, go on your phone, start getting on calls, and start your day. It takes some sacred moments, as you know, Beth, like with the work that you do.
Oh my God. So it's full disclosure. I had a session with someone I work with who I don't even know what to call her. She's one of these multidimensional people, but she's studied everything. She's an elder too. And I said to her, I was like, when I was down in Peru this summer working with medicine, and in a ceremony, I could feel like my nervous system more relaxed than it's ever been in my life. My body, I've done so much work on my body. Like I used to be an endurance runner, a marathon, ultra
Mm,
marathon, and I've had a lot of healing to do. And I sunk into this state and I realized, I was like, wait a second. No one talks about what happens when you're actually like really in your body, and how it's almost uncomfortable when you're so used to, like having tension or having, dysregulation. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I don't think that's a lot of the conversation you see in, like little clips on Instagram, is like what happens when you're actually in that healed state if you're not used to it. Like, do
yeah.
people know how to maintain it and integrate it and get used
Hmm.
to it? Or do we just allow, the next thing to come back in and like take us down again?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I'm curious, do you think there's an ability for people to truly heal and like heal their nervous system for real? Especially, by the way, living here in the Western world in the US, it's like the energies just seem so intense. And we throw in
Hmm.
life, social media, fast paced, driving, road rage,
Yeah, it takes work, and here's why: because we're disconnected from nature.
Mm,
It would be a lot easier if we went back to our roots and lived in nature and actually woke up to bird song and put our feet on the ground and breathe like mountain air or jungle air wherever we live, right? That very and I teach this in the course, the very signals from different nature cues have very potent effects on our blood pressure, but more importantly on the balance of our nervous system. Just being around nature helps balance our nervous system. Now, great, like everyone can attest to that. We go out on hikes and we're like, I feel better, wow, what a great day. And you go back to your life. And the truth is, and I'm saying this as someone who lives in LA, the truth is it's very difficult to maintain health. It's an uphill battle, put it that way, if you're in the middle of a city. Now, for me, thank God, at least I have the ocean. I can ride my bike right to the beach, put my feet there, put my earplugs on or headphones, and then connect to the ocean. But if you're not, and you live somewhere where you need greenery all over your home, because the very signal of seeing greenery in your home can actually start to regulate your nervous system. So to answer your question, it's like, yeah, if you don't live in nature, we have to have our rituals set up for ourselves in order to maintain health. And for me, health is that nervous system regulation such that whatever you believe, whatever, like your soul will be able to express through your nervous system in human form. So you are embodying your soul and its purpose. That's for me health. Anything else than that is less than health. So, I mean, that's for me why we're here, right? To embody who we are in human form, to embody our purpose, to feel connected to life. And like that is impossible. I promise you, impossible if you're in survival mode. And what's not helping survival mode is if you come out of your door and you hear "Wah," and a taxi cab and someone's cursing. Like I was in New York for 3 days. I love it. By the third day, I was like, I'm out. And then we went to upstate New York, and I was like, I'm better. You know? Yeah. Shout out upstate New York.
that's why everybody's leaving now. Not everybody, by the way. I always like to say, like, okay, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I agree. I talk about this a lot. It's like even with clients that I work with, and I'm sure you too, it's the first step is like, okay, just safe. Like the very idea. And so many people feel unsafe, which is interesting. 'Cause, I have some teachers that say, like, look, like even though it feels uncertain and unsafe and the world is in, chaos, we are technically safer than ever, if we look back on history, which is probably, I'm going to get people saying like that's not true. But really, like, who is truly chasing us right now, especially, here in America? And that's probably the most the listeners and people in this audience. But it's an interesting thing as someone who's really on the front lines of health and wellness, and you're, based in LA and kind of been studying this a while. I'm curious, when you look to our future here, like especially in the Western world, do you have faith in, like the direction things are going? Because it's very interesting. Like, as I call myself as one of those people that lives in a bubble. It's like, oh, me and all my community are going in what I think is an evolutionary positive direction. But then we look around, we see the news, we maybe see other people. I don't know about you. I feel like I've personally been hearing about more cancer cases than ever
Mm.
lately. It's a thing. And then, we go to the grocery stores and I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember stores having this many products when I was a kid. Like there's just shit. There's like
Hmm.
everything for everybody and kids and random things. And sometimes I feel this like, it's a sadness. I'm like, is there hope for our health? Is there hope for our mental health and wellness and healing on this planet? I don't know. What are your thoughts on like the direction that things are going in, and do you feel positive, like generally, with it?
I feel positive, and this might be at the risk of being in a bubble,
Yeah.
but I feel positive in a sense that when stepped into this, there was it was like uh, beyond an uphill battle. There was like no one knew about like really, really like healthy living. They sort of knew, but it wasn't quote unquote trendy. And then it started like kind of trending, and there was like a whole blow up of yoga movement and yoga pants and green juices and salads. And I was like, okay, great, this is good. And then that has different iterations, at least on the dietary front. Um, but I actually do believe that because the conversations that are being had on national platforms from celebrities that like I never thought would be talking about like the stuff they're talking about. Even some people talking about like psychedelics, even some people talking about like somatic work. That's pretty wild to me. I'm like, whoa. And for better or worse, it's through social media. It's like, like like it's a love hate for me. It's like, God, I have this thing that's my work, but also I'm on it too much. And like, I don't want to spend my time on a screen, but also it's like amazing because people are learning things. But I've had some interesting celebrities follow me and I go, whoa, like, would they ever have 10 years ago follow somebody talking about the crazy stuff that I talk about? And then for me, I was like, shout out to them, right? Because now their consciousness, that's in their field. And these are people of influence, people of power who they can be expressing that to other people. So like my take is that it is going in a right direction, in a direction that is healing. Now, cancer's going up. Yeah,
Is it? Yeah,
the
it's
projections are going up.
it's a
Yeah,
real thing, right? Okay.
the overall projections. Yeah, you're right. And but like there's still that battle, right? We're still like looking for just to put a band-aid. We're still not learning prevention. We're still not that's a huge part. And we won't be healthy as a nation until that happens. Until there's education around like, hey, the food system, community, putting your feet on the ground, exercise, like proper balance in your diet. Like all these things are important. We're not there yet, but it's also interesting at the same time we're hearing more sophisticated conversations about like psychedelics, right? Like somatic work, repressed emotions. That's great. And let's teach people how to like do the 101 stuff, like eat healthier. So I would say it's in the middle, trending upward.
Yeah.
slowly.
Yeah, no, slowly, exponentially fast, maybe. Yeah, I tend to be, maybe it's the bubble thing too. I tend to be optimistic. I really do feel like I'm the same thing. I have this love hate of social media, the internet, the computer in
Mm-hmm.
general. But if we're able to reach people with this, just education and just even make little shifts, it's like all of this is accessible, available to everybody. And technically it's free. It's like your body. All it is like going inward and really, I always recommend work with a professional because you get more exponential results. But really, it's like slowing down.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, and I've asked this for 5 years in a row, and it's such an obvious answer, but what are because everybody pretty much says the same thing, but it's amazing how many people aren't really living this. But what do you think is really ailing at the root of this planet right now when it comes to health, wellness, healing? Like, I mean, you've already mentioned some of it, but what is wrong? What's wrong with our society? Like, what could you change if you,
The
yeah.
truth is we are really, really afraid to embody who we are.
Mhm.
And by virtue of that, it's expressing in all of the most distorted ways, right? And we're expressing that anger that we've abandoned our body to other, right? We're expressing our sadness that we've abandoned our bodies towards ourselves and holding it in. We're dysregulated. We don't feel safe. We've come from homes that are traumatic. There's a lot of people. Most people, I would say, are coming homes that they just weren't fully loved and accepted to keep expressing themselves and be more of you. And shout out to the parents who do show up like that. I'm sure a lot who listen to this more conscious, and our parents are the best. But the truth is that we're living in a state of it's really hard to hold those grocery bags for a long, long time. But that's what we're doing. We're all holding our version of 10 grocery bags on each arm and shaking, and our tolerance for our nervous system is so low that we just can't take it anymore. And that shaking is expressing in a macro scale, right? And we're hurting each other. There's war. We're totally out of the integrity of ourselves as human beings. We've lost ourselves in many ways, but not fully. And we treat others like shit. And that's what's happening. We're divided, right? And I don't think until we actually feel good in our body and connect and actually unapologetically like be, do, say, or have all parts of us, that we can even begin to learn what it feels like to connect with another truly and love another and unconditionally love another. You can't unconditionally love another if you haven't even seen all the parts of yourself, all of the darkness, all the hell, all the light, all the heaven. Until you embody that, the world is going to be the same.
Beautiful message. I couldn't agree
Thank you.
more. Well, before we go, I have a couple more questions, and I'm just curious, as someone whose father also passed away from cancer. And if this is too personal, feel free to skip it. But I'm wondering, now that you have this lens and perspective of all you've learned since your mom passed away, have you ever looked back and wondered, like, well, here's what like here's what caused the cancer, or here's how she got it? I mean, do
Mhm.
you have your theories? And I'm curious
I
because
do.
I've done this with my dad. I'm like, well, I feel like it was this and unhealed this, and that's why it's like a
I
subconscious
do.
death.
Yeah, I do. I not that we'll ever know, but what I do over the years, I've come across like, oh, well, maybe she should have eat this and done this, but I think that I've landed, especially going through the somatic work and actually seeing patients that reminded me of my mom with the same diagnosis. You begin to learn about their story and what and then align with it. And there was a really potent moment where there was a lady like that, and look, when I speak like this, with this is healer Christian. It's not Dr. Christian right now. So like I want to just speak from like we don't have studies on this. We won't have studies on this. You cannot measure how many cc's of energy is repressed in someone and how many cc's of energy is expressed in someone. It doesn't work that way. But I will say, anecdotally, what I've seen consistently is that breast cancer in particular has a picture of repressed sexual energy, or like the distorted sexual energy or shame around sexuality. The people that I saw were consistently like in shame of their sexuality because of religion. So they have a religion trauma in itself, because religion in itself could be a trauma. Unless it teaches you to be acceptable and loving and embody yourself, then there shouldn't be shame around your own impulse for sex and sexuality. That was really potent in the people who were representing with breast cancer, as well as a deep father wound, anger towards the father. So those are the two really big things that I saw. Now, for my mom, I would say those two on the somatic piece, and I would also say that there was her diet. She was not obese, but she was a little overweight, and there was a mold exposure. We had a really big mold spill, or like a water damage in our house, that we didn't know how to remediate it when I was younger. And the people came in and they didn't do it the right way. That's not how you remediate mold. And she got sick 2 years after that. And we actually all did. My brother got pneumonia. I got psoriasis. Like, all it was pretty. That was the event. So I would say that, like, all of those things were filling up the cup, and then that particular event was the thing that filled it over. I would say most of the cup was that energetic repression of sexuality and anger towards the father.
Fascinating. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Thank you for sharing that. One of my friends actually recently got a breast cancer diagnosis at age 40, under 45, 43, I think she is. Yeah.
What did
Um,
your father have?
he had lung cancer.
I swear I knew it. I swear I knew you were going to say that. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I
No,
just
no,
like
it's okay.
I
Grief.
just had this deep intuition. It was like she's going to say lung. And was he a smoker?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he went through the phases of quitting and smoking and quitting. And, it was always weird to me that, like, I was like, did he really smoke that much? But, as someone who's worked with a lot of medicine and studied a lot of this and the energetics, and I mean, even when he had the diagnosis, he didn't tell anyone about it. He just hid it and didn't want to treat it, which is interesting. He was only 78, when he got the diagnosis. He probably could have treated it, but I think it was like deep, deep sadness and grief. And there was a lot of unhealed work with his mom, and no one in the family, including his family that he was raised with, no one understood why he was so, like, upset and angry. It was like this anger at his mom, and no one ever knew why. And his sister always said, like, oh, she was such a great woman. I never understood what his problem was. So
Mm.
I always said, like, I think he subconsciously killed himself, because he also, here's the thing, by the way, my brother says this now. He used to say, I'm gonna die before I'm wait, what was it? Oh, sorry. No, he didn't die at 78. He died at 71. Sorry, did I just say 78? So he died at 71 years old, and he used to say, I'm going to die before I'm 72, because every male in our family has never lived past 72. And it's crazy because, he's looking back into, like, generations. And my brother, who lives in California and lives a pretty healthy lifestyle for the most part, is going around saying that now too. And I'm like, well,
Mm.
you're just going to manifest your death then, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I was going to ask about grief because of the lungs and his relationship with his parents, but you've answered that. But yeah, I mean, like, it brings up a potent thing, is like the stories that we tell are very important, right? Like, what are the sponsoring stories behind your human experience? Like,
Mm.
if I've seen a lot of people who are consistently sick, they come and do like somatic work and all this healthy stuff, but if they believe that they can only get love from others when they're in a state of sickness, that's going to trump everything, right? So it's like you got to pay a close attention to what signals am I truly, candidly telling myself about myself to receive love from others, you know? And that's potent work. And I would actually urge everyone to ask the questions. It's like, if you're consistently sick, do you really want to heal? That's it. If the answer is no, that's okay. But be honest with yourself. Do you really want to heal, or are you receiving more love, attention, affection from others? And do you believe that when you're sick? Because it might have been true when you were younger, but it's really, really important to think about. So things like that, right? Like those really, really potent beliefs, we don't even know. They're like kind of like blind spots. They're like, that's how I am. But when you're honest with yourself and you do the somatic work and you drop into your body and you do the psychedelics, you will get humbled because something will show you at some point that story.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, but of course I wanna heal," and then you do the deeper digging, and it's like, "My
Yeah.
whole identity is rocked
Yes,
now, what
identity.
do I
Exactly.
do?"
Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I, right? Yeah.
I've known some of those people in my life, and it's like, yeah, you have to be willing to die and reborn, like,
Yeah.
rebirth yourself, and,
Yeah.
it's not an easy process, but I am so glad you're teaching this work to so many people and training. And this is, I mean, honestly, this is, I cannot say this enough for anybody that's been listening to this podcast or my summits for years. I've repeated this endlessly because I do believe it's the path forward. It's the path to healing. And if you're working with any medicines at all, any psychedelics, this is the path to real, true integration. It's, in my humble opinion, it's the only way that psychedelics work. It's like, yeah, you might get some nice visions and some, insights, but if you don't integrate it into the depths of your soul and your being, your body, your soma, like every energetic imprint in your cells,
Mhm.
it's like, what's the point? You can drink ayahuasca the rest of your life, and what good is
Yeah.
it going to do? So
That's true. That's
I'm
true.
so glad you're teaching this. So tell us, what do you have? So you have the training coming up. What else are you up to in the next 6 to 12 months? Just,
Ooh,
yeah.
okay. I have well, the podcast is the podcast. We're always showing up for that. We have great shows. I mean, like we talk about somatics and we talk about everything else. I've done product reviews on lipstick, on water filters. I've talked about matcha. I've talked about nature in your home. I've had guests talk about think about anything, postmenopausal, premenopausal, every show. And it's just a huge library. You can always just type in "Heal Thyself, Dr. G" and almost any topic, and there'll be a show on it. We've had 300 plus shows. And then I'm looking at my whiteboard next to me right now, and I'm making a product. I'm making a product for the first time. I've waited 10, when did I graduate school? 24, 10 years ago.
Physical
And
product?
yeah, like a physical product to take home, but that is like, I can't say what it is yet, but it's really, really good. And it's really powerful. And I would do nothing less. It's high integrity, heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides. We're making sure that everything is across. Like, I can't come out with something that isn't like OCD high level purity and effectiveness. So you just wait. You just wait. Give me 8 months, and then on the eighth month you'll see all over Instagram, and I'll send you some.
Yeah, send me some. I'll share it because here I am drinking hydrogen water that friends of
Good
mine.
stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, here's the thing. I was like, there's someone who you probably know, and I was sitting with her in Costa Rica, and I turned to her after a ceremony, and I was like, "So what's the real deal with this stuff? Is this just like the latest gimmick? Because
Yeah,
it's gimmicky looking."
it's gimmicky looking.
I could see like the difference. And then they explained the science. And I was like, you know what? Ever
There's
since I've
some
been drinking
research.
this, it's like weird. I have a lot of energy usually to begin with, but I definitely have down days. But this, it's weird. Like it's a different kind of energy. It's like a consistent, solid, grounded. And I'm like, I feel good. So that's all that matters to me.
I'm going to Paris tomorrow, and I'm bringing that. I have a bottle, like the little hydrogen water bottle maker,
Yeah.
and and it just works so well with like that tension and fatigue that you feel from flying. Like there's just everyone who flies, they're just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck did my body just go through, on some level,
Yeah.
and then it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I had it with me the whole time in Peru. And honestly, like I just energetically structuring my water, especially if I'm in a place where I have to buy bottled water or
Yeah,
drink unknown
yeah,
water.
exactly.
I always call myself, I'm a true water snob. I mean, I moved up here just for the water.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah. Well, Dr. G, it was so good to have you on here. It's great to finally meet you and hang out. And thank you so much for this work you're doing. I really do believe in the healing of the planet. I do believe everything is accessible to all. And thank you so much for all your education. I can't wait to hear about this product. And yeah, we'll have the link right here in the training. And by the way, let me know the next time you're offering this training as well. We'll send it out to the psychedelic
100%.
community and get them
100%.
in.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Beth, so much.
Thank you for your time.